Hi, everyone. I'm excited to talk about the 7 Leave No Trace principles with you so you can take these back to your camp, to your life in outdoor recreation, and Burning Man and beyond. I'm hoping that you can share these principles, this video, or the information here with your campmates and beyond with other burners at the playa and as part of the community when you recreate. A little bit about me. My name is Reet. I've been a burner since 2018. I'm going on my fifth or sixth burn coming up this year. And last year I became a Leave No Trace instructor. And my goal is to spread this Leave No Trace principles with the burner community, with the outdoor recreation community, which I'm a big part of. I'm really grateful for the 7 Leave No Trace principles that really helped shape my life, along with the Burning Man principles. And I really believe the principles are what make Burning Man such a special community and a place. And I'm really excited to share these with you today. We have an impact on nature. We all love nature, but we have an impact when we recreate. The more use we have, the more trash ends up compiling in these places. We compromise wildlife, fire, and climate change with our actions, small or great. The nature we love is at risk, and there's a lot more we can do to prevent that. So, Leave No Trace is one of the world's leading organizations. It's a nonprofit organization, and they're devoted to teaching people how to protect the places we love and the natural world. People trained in Leave No Trace are 5 times more likely to take actions that protect nature. However, 9 out of 10 people still don't have the critical and basic education that they need to be able to execute the principles that help protect these wild places. Leave No Trace is one of the 10 principles for Burning Man, which is where I first actually almost learned about it in the mid 2015, 2017 timeframe. And it's one of the principles that you find when you're talking about MOOP, when you're addressing impact of Burning Man on the Black Rock Desert. So I'm excited to dive more into it. But beyond Burning Man, these are the principles that you can come across when you're hiking, biking, or traveling, camping, and exploring in your backyard outside of Black Rock City. You can also take these to your local park and your day-to-day life. And one thing I'd like to really discuss is that there are principles, not laws and rules, where you're not going to get everybody's on a spectrum with these. So you don't have to try to be perfect, but if we can apply these, be more mindful around these principles and really spread them with others in a compassionate and respectful way, we can make a huge impact in how we recreate and how we take care of the places where we like to play, including Black Rock City. And with the spectrum, really think of it as a personal outdoor ethic on a spectrum. On one end, there's many impacts. On the other end, there are very few impacts. But there's everybody falls somewhere on this spectrum, and that's okay. So that's something to keep in mind before we jump into them. So there's 7 Leave No Trace principles, and I'm going to dive into each one of these and what they mean and how you can try to remember them, and also how you can apply them at Black Rock City and Burning Man and beyond. So the first one is probably the most important one. It's plan ahead and prepare, because it ties into all of the rest of the principles. And the second one is travel and camp on durable surfaces, dispose of waste properly, leave what you find, minimize campfire impacts, respecting wildlife, and being considerate of others. So let's dive into each one of these. Plan ahead and prepare. In this one is really about, before you head out to recreate outdoors, is to do a checklist. And the way I like to think about it is use the number 1, plan ahead and prepare. You can think of that as like tapping your head and remembering, or writing on a piece of paper. And it's about being prepared, checking the maps, the weather, the forecast before you head out on the adventure. How are you going to get there? Are you bringing your dog? Do you have poop bags? Are you going into the backcountry? Are there toilets at the trailhead? All the things that you might need to think about before you head out for recreation. And there's a huge checklist. I'm going to leave links to a lot of resources that you can find later on, so you don't have to try to remember all this. But really taking the time ahead of the adventure, whether it's a hike, a mountain bike, a multi-day backcountry trip, or 8 days in the middle of a Black Rock desert where you're not going to have the resources. And really, it's not just even before the trip, it's every single time you take a micro adventure at Burning Man. So a few things at Burning Man that you want to think about is weather, checking the wind, securing your camp, bringing a dust mask, eye mask, all the things that you might need if there is weather changes on the playa, but also packing these things before your trip. So a lot of it goes into before you get to the burn, when you're at the burn, and even post-burn. So constantly planning ahead and preparing for all the things that can change. So rain, obviously, we know it can be a factor. What is the temperature? Do you have the right clothing? Do you have the right equipment to maintain temperature regulation? Water, are you bringing enough water for each day? So a lot of this is in the survival guide. So please read the Burning Man survival guide. One big thing in waste prevention is having a plan for your waste. So what's your MOOP plan? I always like to bring a MOOP bag, not for my own waste even, but anything I might find out on the playa. A lot of times we're biking by or walking by and you see MOOP, but you have nowhere to put it. So I personally like to have a little mini trash bag on me, a MOOP bag to pick up any MOOP that I might find or create. And I keep one on my bike. So it's a little trash can on my bike to pick up any MOOP that I might find. Poop plan. So we've actually found human waste on the playa and it's pretty gross, and accidentally riding over it would be even worse, or stepping on it. So if you can bring a wag bag for yourself, or you could use dog poop bags or plastic bags, put some playa dust on it so you can pack it out. So pack it in, pack it out for every piece of waste that you bring on to Black Rock Desert. This applies to outdoor recreation as well. In a lot of places where you can't dig human waste, you have to pack it out. So wag bags are a great product for that, especially in places like desert or high alpine country in the mountains. Having a plan for those things allow you to, when you get into those emergency situations where you don't have the supplies. So if you have a plan ahead, you can then bring the supplies that you might need and be prepared either for yourself or somebody else as well that you might be coming across, either on the playa or in outdoor recreation. At your camp, have a plan for your waste at the camp. So that means your gray water from doing dishes or from your RV, make sure it's not leaking, your black water or your portos at the camp, your trash, recycling, and compost, reducing as much trash as possible. And I'm going to go into more detail of this. Bringing your recycling to recycle camp, and there's compost camps at Burning Man. So if you can separate out your waste at camp, you can then reduce your waste that you have to pack out, as long as you can properly separate and segregate those and take those to the right camps. Again, by planning ahead and preparing, you're not only avoiding emergencies and you're reducing weight and making it safer, you're also helping your other campmates and the burner community and the organization by reducing the amount of MOOP that the resto team then has to stay back and clear up. They spend days and weeks, sometimes in months, making sure that they're restoring the playa surface back to its original condition, better than what we found it, so that you have the BLM permit for the following year to be able to constantly have the event that we all love so much. So huge call out here to plan ahead and prepare would be to read the survival guide. That's probably the number one thing you could do to plan for Burning Man. Next, you also test out your gear, your clothing, and bikes. So securing your lights and batteries on your bike, checking your outfits. Are they moopy? Is there a chance they can create MOOP? Riding your bike, testing it out. Like the playa surface is bumpy, so your lights and your batteries, the way you have them secured on your bike, take your bike out before the burn and ride it around. Does it need repair or maintenance? Those are all the things you can take time. We still have a couple weeks. I know I'm sending this a little bit late, but you still have a couple weeks to be able to do this and test out your gear. I was listening to the Playa Resto team on the Burning Man podcast, and one of their biggest call outs was that this Reflectix that we end up putting on the outside of the windows of RVs and vehicles. Apply this when you get to Burning Man instead of trying to drive with it. This, a lot of times, is held together by masking tape or painter's tape, and it blows off the windows and ends up creating a lot of moop all the way along the highway, which then gets blown off with wind and ends up on private property or public lands or bushes, which is really, really hard for the restoration team to go collect. And that is a big piece of moop that I wanted to call out specifically that you can help prevent. I wasn't aware of this personally, so I'm going to make this change in my life when I show up at the burn and before I leave the playa during Exodus, is to take these down before leaving. Principle number 2 is travel and camp on durable surfaces. Durable surfaces are anything that's not vegetation or that could be damaged. That's trails, rock, sand, snow if it's deeper than 6 inches. And that the biggest way you can really focus on that in your day-to-day outdoor recreation is to walk and ride on designated trails. Designated trails are durable surface. So don't cut switchbacks. If you're hiking next to someone, walk in a single file line and chat instead of walking next to each other, which ends up creating social trails, makes the trail wider, and ends up creating more erosion and destruction of vegetation. It only takes a few passes, like 12 to 25 passes on vegetation to destroy that trail forever. So it's really nice to just stick to the designated trails and campsites when they're available to you. The best campsites are found, not created. So if you're camping on the backcountry, don't create a new campsite, cut down trees, or create new structures and build new campsites. So try to minimize your impact and stay on durable and camp on durable surfaces. It's not as big on for Black Rock City because most of the playa is a durable surface as it composes of sand. Disposing of waste properly. This is a big one at Burning Man and even in the backcountry at Burning Man. This is a recent email from the org about disposing of any form of human waste on the playa is illegal. So not only is it a good principle to dispose of your waste properly, it's actually a law that you want to keep in mind. So pack in, pack out, even your tiny little crumbs, peels, cores, and organic waste even does not belong in the backcountry or in the waste, in the natural places. Orange peels, banana peels, things like that, apple cores, they don't come from that region in that area that you might be recreating in, and wildlife can get used to eating that. It's not great for them, and you're also attracting wildlife to the trails and campsites that can then have negative impacts on not only human and wildlife impact interactions, but to the wildlife itself. At Burning Man, use the portos, bring emergency rag bags that I talked about, and really think about just reducing before you even think about reusing, recycling, and think about your greater impact. So for this one event and for this one week, how much waste do we end up creating, and maybe do an audit of that. So if you can buy used clothing, used bikes, used everything, you're going to reduce the overall impact for the amount of environmental waste that goes into having this 1 week of the event. Removing packaging before you get to your camp, that could be food packaging, clothing, lights, all the things that you're bringing in. Take that waste and leave it where you're coming from at your house and not bring it in, so then you don't have to pack it back out. So reducing how much waste you have to pack out is probably one of the best ways to reduce the trash that you have to do. Again, if it's recyclable, take it to a recyclable camp or compost camp often, so it doesn't build up at your camp and when the wind blows, or at the end of the week when it's kind of chaotic and you're packing up and striking, there's not a big buildup of waste. If you don't, lastly, on bikes versus e-bikes, regular analog pedal bikes versus getting an e-bike, think about the greater impact of lithium mining. It is a fast-growing industry. It's an amazing source of energy, but too much of it could still obviously create a lot of issues. So if you don't already have an e-bike that you're bringing to the playa, and you're thinking about getting a bike, I would highly recommend, if you are able and capable, to just ride a regular bike. Uh, there's the Thacker mine, which is not very far from Black Rock City, is really fighting with lithium mining impact. And I just bring this example to show how close to home this can hit. This is an area where there's water being depleted. There's impact to wildlife, to the local native communities that are in the area. So if you can just pedal a regular bike, you don't have to worry about the lithium in the batteries, the charging of the batteries, but using either generators or solar panels or other things that you have to create to then just transport. I think e-bikes are a phenomenal product for reducing the impact from cars and alternative transportation. But if you're only buying one just for Burning Man, I would encourage you to think otherwise. Leave what you find is principle number 4. One way I look at it is take your 4 fingers and try to take a picture, which is just take a picture, but leave the plants, rocks, or any historical items when you're out recreating. Leave them behind so you don't others can enjoy them forever. This Burning Man could be art, infrastructure, things like that, so you're not taking anything back with you. A lot of this applies to shells and fossils or animal bones or things that you might find while you're out foraging or while you're out in the wild. Principle number 5 is minimize campfire impact. This is huge in places like where I live in Colorado, where we have a lot of dry weather. So biggest thing here is consider a camp stove. If you don't need to have a fire, they're easier to cook with and create less impact and easier to put out than campfires. So if you have a campfire, be sure that you're allowed to build one. So check fire restrictions where you're camping or hiking, and make sure you're permitted to use it. And when you create one, know that you're using it in a fire ring. Keep the fire small. Keep trash out of the fire ring. And they should either be the firewood also has to be bought locally or from a local vendor. And this is for making sure that we don't transport insects and diseases that can be in the firewood from one area to another. And finally, at Burning Man, burn barrels, if you have one, keep them off the playa ground because the heat can char the surface of the playa permanently. And don't burn any trash or plastic in those burn barrels. The 6th principle is respect wildlife. And for this, I use 3 fingers each side, create little horns. And this is respecting wildlife. So remember the number 6. And the big thing here is don't feed wildlife. They are not used to human food. So feeding them creates bad habits for them. They don't know how to fend and eat for themselves. And when humans are not there, they can't find food. So observing wildlife from a distance and not approaching them is one of the best things you could do in not feeding them. One of the things you could do is try the rule of thumb. So if you stick out your thumb and go as far and stick your arm out and close one eye. If you can still see the animal, you might be too close. And this helps you really think about the size of the animal. So if it's a bison or a bear, you might want to be further away. Where it's a marmot or something smaller, that helps you gauge how close or far you may consider being. One of the best ways I like to think about this is if my presence is impacting the wildlife to change its behavior, where if an elk is grazing and I get too close and they stop grazing and they have to run away because they're scared, or if I'm talking too loudly, I'm having an impact on their life and I might be too close. So that's how I think about my impact on wildlife. At Burning Man, avoiding driving at night. There's not a ton of wildlife at Black Rock Desert. There is some, but I like to think of it as like, what's my impact from when I leave my house to getting to Black Rock City. And some of the ways I know I have an impact on wildlife is speeding or possibly driving at night, where you might create roadkill or impact wildlife. Have a negative impact on them. Not throwing organic litter out of the window is huge. So we talked about banana peels and things like that. We think of as organic material that is naturally going to decompose in the environment. When you toss out litter out the window, small animals like mice and other rodents can try to go eat them, which draws in bigger prey birds like owls and eagles and falcons and other things that prey on those rodents all along the sides of the highway. So when they're flying in to try to reach or try to attack the rodents, they end up getting hit by cars, and you're essentially drawing more wildlife and wild animals to the roadways. So that's a great way to not attract the wildlife to the roadways and keep them safer. And slowing down can have a huge impact. You could save a life on your way in and out of Burning Man. The last principle is be considerate of others. And this is of other trail users, keeping their motivations in mind. So if they might be out on a trail to find solitude and you're playing music out loud, that might be something to keep in mind. Keeping your pet under control for others and for wildlife is a great way that you can, have a positive impact on others, and just keeping that in mind. So if it's a trail is not very used, maybe you can let your dog off leash and you're allowed to. That's just one of the ways that you can be considerate of other trail users if you're, and also know you're right on the trail. So if there's equestrians or hikers and you're a mountain biker, you sort of have like the lowest priority on the trail, depending on if it's a multi-use trail or mountain bike specific trail. That kind of goes back to plan ahead and preparing, knowing, okay, I'm going to go ride this trail. What type of trail users do I might come across? Do I need a bear belt to let others know that I'm on the trail, so you're not scaring hikers, things like that. So really, you can't cover all of these principles in one place, but really planning ahead and preparing is the best way you can be considerate of what you might need to do based on the recreation you're about to do. At Burning Man, this might be biking at under 5 miles an hour on city streets and camps, and making sure that you're sharing space with all other users, whether they're art cars and pedestrians, keeping your music in check when you're camping and knowing all the restrictions around music or considerations. Lasers and thinking about others. One big thing to me and what's being really being educated, and I appreciate all the conversation around this, is consent on Playa before taking pictures or videos. And that's one great way to be considerate of others. And then respecting camp boundaries and signage, and really just looking out for each other in the Burning Man community and beyond. Here's some resources. So Leave No Trace in Daily Life it's more than just, principles that we use for outdoor recreation. You can start this at your local park. Reduce your single-use item waste. I think a lot of us are considerate of that already. Properly disposing of your household waste. We talked about recycling and composting. Those are all the practices you can not only do at Burning Man or Black Rock City, but in your day-to-day life. Considering alternate transportation, minimizing your energy consumption, supporting local businesses, impacts of your dogs and pets, using social media to educate with kindness. So I really appreciate your time. A few more resources. You can check out lnt.org. You can volunteer to do cleanups, find other opportunities to connect with other members. They have a lot of different places. It's a huge organization where they're having cleanups and other things that you can join. One of the best things you could do is take this 101 course. It's a 45-minute online course, so about twice as detailed as what this one is, that talks about the 7 principles and how you can use those in your day-to-day life. And if you're interested in getting trained, you can take even more training and see if you want to become a Leave No Trace instructor to do more education around Leave No Trace. I really hope that you got something out of this video, and if you can just take one little thing and possibly incorporate that into your Burning Man experience or your outdoor recreation experience, it would be huge. And if you can pass that on to others in a considerate way, it's going to take all of us to protect the wild places that we love. And I really appreciate your time today and your attention. I hope you have a great burn in 2025 and beyond. Thank you.